Jay, do I look pretty in this dress? If you don't like it, you can just say so! Wait, no! I didn't mean it, it's hard to explain. Recently, I was diagnosed with Tourette Syndrome. This means my body decides to do random sudden movements and say random stuff, and I can't control it. These are called tics, and they make for some funny stories, so let's talk about them. So what are tics like? I'd say they're like a sneeze or fart. You can hold it in for a moment, but you gotta let it rip eventually. Disclaimer, no farts were made in— Is that a disclaimer? No farts were made in the duration of this video. This is only a metaphor. You can't catch me farting. Anyway, one of my tics was widening my eyes a lot, and I started noticing people giving me weird looks.
What? Making random, weird, inappropriate facial expressions is not socially accepted by society? Crazy.
So, my mom tried to make them go away. Since there isn't a cure for tics, she put me in homeopathic therapy! It's basically a more natural medicine system. First, I'd talk with this lady, Dorn, about anything, like a counseling session. One question she'd always ask was, "What's your biggest fear?"
Spiders! Forever spiders!
Then, at the end of each session, Dorn gave me these white round things each day called sugar pills. They didn't have any sugar. Wait, what? Okay, turns out my mom just called them sugar pills because the term homeopathic remedy is not as enticing. My whole life is a lie! I'ma just call them sugar pills. So did they help with the tics? I think, kinda, but definitely not enough to stop them completely. So, my mom put me in biofeedback, where people tried to train me not to have tics by controlling my body.
Okay, so all you gotta do is relax.
I remember they hooked up some wires to my head to track my brainwaves or whatever. If I was relaxed, they would play a game on the screen. If I wasn't, or if I had a tic or moved something, the game would stop. Being the overachiever I was determined to do well. Screen time was precious. I didn't have much at home, so I relaxed. I relaxed so hard, harder than anyone ever before. So hard that I fell asleep.
Sir, what do we do? Patient is unconscious.
Perfect. It's all part of my master plan. So, did biofeedback work? Hard to tell. Since those didn't work completely, I learned to hide my tics. And apparently, I've mastered this craft because almost everyone I tell is like, "Wait, you have tics?" Like during silent reading, I buried myself in a book to do the facial tics in peace. For verbal tics, like clearing my throat, I'd time them perfectly with louder noises, like when people were talking. I wanted to be as sneaky as James Bond. I don't think I watched James Bond, but he's a sneaky guy. Sometimes I'd pretend my tics were totally on purpose. Like, I had this facial tic where I'd widen my eyes, then scrunch my eyebrows together like I was furious. But in conversations, I'd turn it into an expression, like I was angrily confused, to say, "What you just said is so interesting, it's disgraceful." And people would be like, "Wow, you are very into the conversation." Yup, that's all it is. For my head tics, I made sure no one was looking. Or if they were, I'd pretend I was stretching my neck. If I needed to nod my head a bunch, I'd go, "Ooh, I wonder what's on the ceiling." Okay, now I'm putting my head down in a totally normal way. Same thing with the shoulder shrugging tic. I'd fake a shoulder stretch. Or I do it so subtly that no one even noticed. Some tics were like that, where people just can't notice, like me tensing up my muscles or moving very slightly, very quickly. I even learned to replace visible tics with less visible ones. My brain still got that satisfying tic release, but it was more low-key. So instead of throwing my hand super high up in the air, I'd just raise a single finger super high, or do a simple similar movement with my head. Or instead of aggressively rolling my eyes back as far as I could, I'd make a thinking face and blink a few times while rolling them. Smooth as an avocado. I love avocados. And if my tics were gonna get really bad, I just go to the washroom to let it all out. I think my body also knows that at school, it's looked down upon to be doing random gestures, so I wouldn't tic as much there. But when I got home and I was all relaxed, bam! They hit. Big tics unlocked. Full body movements. Shoulders, arms, feet, legs, everything shaking. Ah! The best time to tic was when I had a friend who was blind named Alice. One time she came over to play with my dollhouse. She looked at me to talk to me about the furniture. So the bedroom is here, right? And
Wait, she can't see, right? So I can tic, and she wouldn't notice.
I made the freaking weirdest faces and just fully let out my tics in front of her. Then she made a confused face.
Oh no, she knows!
I was terrified she actually could see the completely offensive faces I made. But she didn't say anything, so I think I got away with it. At one point, I developed my first verbal tic. I was just playing around with sounds I could make with my mouth and ended up saying hut, and then hut, hut. Wow, the way it sounded? I was obsessed. So I just kept doing it. And eventually, my brain went, congrats! This is a new tic now! Jay, what's up? Okay. Another tic I had was nodding or shaking my head in a very specific way. But to others, this just looks like I was constantly nodding along to conversation. You know, Jay, you don't have to agree with every single word I say. One time, I was going to the track meet with my crush. They were grimacing, with their neck. Necking? I don't know. And I was like, oh, what? That's like a tic I have. People do that? So I continued on that tic more openly and frequently, thinking we had this unspoken bond. But for some reason, my crush stopped doing it. What? I thought that was our thing. That's when I realized, oh, they were just nervous for the track meet. That one time. Okay, how do I say without voice cracking? The thing about Tourette's is it can come and go. Those stories were mostly from elementary school, but as I got older, my tics lessened. Life was more chill. I thought maybe I kinda grew out of this. Then, when I was 16 and on TikTok, I kept seeing people with Tourette's showing their tics. It was cool to see others with tics, but seeing so many of those videos re-triggered mine! So yeah, suddenly I was ticking again to a much more extreme level, which was so annoying. The eye widening and eyebrow raising meant I looked super shocked all the time. I was turning into that one Pikachu me. Then I trained myself to raise one eyebrow for fun. It took a lot of effort, but when I finally did it, I was so proud. Then my brain went, new tic unlocked! Not this again. Why are you looking at me so judgy? I don't know. One time, I was leaving the gym and I felt the one eyebrow tic coming on. There was no one around, so I started doing it. But then, this freaking guy popped out of nowhere, walking right into the gym, and I was already mid-tic, staring directly at him, dramatically raising one eyebrow like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry to whoever this was. Why is this weirdo staring at me? Are they judging me? Are my biceps not big enough for the gym? Is it my bald head? What is it? What? Sorry, dude. Another time in high school, I was marking someone's test. The teacher would call on students who volunteered to answer or random victims if no one did so. We got to question 21 and I had no idea what the answer was. And I was pretty sure the person whose test I was marking got the answer wrong too. But as I briefly glanced up at the teacher, my wide-eyed tic happened. I raised my eyebrows and made direct eye contact with the teacher. Alert, alert, eye contact, alert. In her eyes, I was this keen student who was dying to answer the question. So she called on me. Jay, you look like you know the answer. Is it B? Because, you know, the bear was like, yeah. She looked at me with the face of confusion and disappointment, then mercifully saved me by skipping over what I had just said and exclaimed, yes, the answer is D. Ah, yes. I meant D. I'd also have this tic where I needed to raise my hand over my head and play the piano? Not an actual piano, just finger movements, okay? I have no idea how that started. Wait, I remember now! When I was little, one of my least favorite letters was N. But one day, I became intrigued by it. The way it was shaped. The way it could say no. But not capital N. No. Strictly lowercase n. Like, look at this beauty! Isn't it gorgeous? Enemies to lovers. So I started writing N a lot. But that wasn't enough. I had to practice writing the lowercase n in the air. Call me weird, but this stuff was satisfying. I imagined painting it in a stretchy golden yellow color, inspired by the intro of So You Think You Can Dance. Brilliant! So I kept doing that, and it became a tic. I draw the letter N in the air with my middle finger on my right hand mostly, but then it spread to my left, and my whole arm, and then eventually my feet, and my head. I became a walking, breathing, lowercase n. Holy, wait, I didn't realize I still had this tic. The random finger movements I still do? They're just me drawing N. I just stopped thinking about it. What? Oh my gosh, I still do it with my voice too. Like when I say huh, I do it 4 times, signaling how I write the letter N. What? Most of my tics are just making the letter N. I guess the lowercase n is always on my mind. Okay, so developing tics can be random like that, but sometimes I'd have specialized tics of things others can't do. Like when I would constantly move the bones of my knuckles. Like, I don't know how I do it, I just do. I also had this tic where I'd move my entire forehead to make it bigger, like this. But I did it so often that my head kind of hurt, and I thought maybe it wasn't good for me. You know what else is not good? Let's get serious. Tic attacks are when someone has a bunch of tics at once, and it can last from minutes up to hours. They don't happen often, but when they do, luckily mine have only happened at home, but they still interrupt stuff. I remember watching the Owl House series finale, just getting emotionally destroyed by my gay cartoons, and it happened. My arms started going up and down, and I was ticking all over. The hard shoulder shrugs, the huts, the throat clearing, the letter N's, the head nods. So yeah, tic attacks can suck, cause I was trying to relax and cry, but nope, my body decided to hit me with an involuntary workout instead. But that got me thinking, what causes my tics? I was just watching an emotional show, and people are just born with Tourette's, so I thought there was nothing else that could cause them. Then I realized when I was anxious, like doing a test or something, I'd tic more, which isn't great because those are the kind of situations where you at least want to be distracted. But because of this and other stuff that had made me slower at tests, I decided to finally get diagnosed so I could get some accommodations. I knew I had tics since I was a kid, but I wasn't properly diagnosed because I didn't have verbal tics. Plus, my tics were milder than my brother's, who was diagnosed at the time. They were not as bad as others I saw online, and nobody really noticed my tics anyway. But after TikTok, my tics made me talk verbally a lot, and they came back stronger than the rock. Although they were still mild compared to some others, I thought I should probably get this checked out. So, at 17, I went to a pediatrician. I had video footage ready, but he just asked me about my tics and stuff instead. The thing is, though, I never talked about this before. So when I finally did, I felt a weight being lifted off my chest. Like, this has been my whole life story, and I've never put it into words. What the heck? And for the first time in a doctor's appointment, I cried. Hard. Why am I crying? Sorry, I usually don't do this. Yeah, it was kinda embarrassing, especially cause I never met this doctor before, but he was really nice about it, and gave me tissues. After that, he was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure you have Tourette's. I don't see why not. And like a month later, I got the official diagnosis of Tourette Syndrome. Yippee! How do I yippee?
Yippee!
Confirmation confirmed. Because of this, I was able to get an individualized education plan, which meant I got a bit of extra time for tests. So what do I do about my tics now? Nothing really. Since the main triggers are anxiety and thinking about tics, I just try not to think about them. Until now, making this video, y'all better hit the like button, because I had so many tics when writing the script. As for anxiety, I still have it, but I'm trying to manage it. And even though I don't have as many obvious verbal tics, I still have Tourette's. It looks different in everyone. It's a real disability, not some fake trend on TikTok. Tourette's isn't people just randomly swearing, and it's not a joke, even though some tics can be funny. And if you think it's distracting to be around, think of how hard it is for the person living with it. While Tourette's is annoying, it's a part of me, whether I like it or not. And I'm learning to live with it, accepting it as just something I can't really control. And it can be a part of my sob story when I'm super rich and famous. So yeah, I'm just learning to love who I am. And if I can, you can too. Okay, watch this video on screen next. See ya! But after TikTok, my tics talked. But after TikTok, my TikTok. What the? Yippee! Yippee!
Yippee! Okay, goodbye for real.